Thank you, everybody, for joining today. Today's presenter is Wilfried. He is my friend. I'm so happy, so honored to have Wilfried. I met him so many years ago in person, and he had long legs and long arms, and I saw his shiatsu form. It was so beautiful. And during this pandemic, I was able to connect him, and I was able to invite him. And he is one of our respected shiatsu teachers in Europe. Thank you, Wilfried. And let's put our hands and the mind, heart together to meditate, to honor all our shiatsu teachers, friends, and people around you. Namu Shinyo Ichi Nyoto To Toki Miho Tokeo Nenji Tate Matsuru Sangi Zange Rokkon Zaisho Metsujo Bonno Metsujo Gonsho Om Saraba Tathagata Hanamana no Gyaromi. And let's reflect ourselves. How's our yin-yang energies moving within ourselves, within our surroundings, and in our community and the family around us. Today's topic is Shiatsu with the psychological crisis. Wilfried talks about how our emotions, our physical condition are connected. There's such a beautiful statement he gave it to us. By working with the body and energetic spaces, we can reach a client's soul and their emotional experiences. This touched my heart, and I hope we can touch our client's soul by learning from Wilfried today. And let's have Wilfried presentation. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Hello, everybody out there. Yes, my name is Wilfried Rappenecker, and Kumiko asked me to offer a presentation on the topic of shiatsu with clients in psychological crisis, and I will gladly do that. My shiatsu background is that I learned shiatsu. I started to learn shiatsu. I'm still learning it in 1981, exactly 40 years ago. My first teacher was Wataru Ohashi. He came to Berlin then, so that was my first workshop, and since then I'm hooked. And later I made shiatsu my main profession. My background is that of a medical doctor. At the time I met shiatsu, I was working in an intensive care unit in Berlin hospital, and where they do not touch, but they calculate everything. I suddenly found out I want to touch, and this is why this is still my job. I really love to touch, because through touch we meet life. And at that time I didn't understand where this comes from, this longing to touch. It was just something that was there. And then I had 40 decades to explore this. So I'm still on the hook. Beside Ohashi, my other teachers were Saul Goodman, from Pennsylvania and Pauline Sasaki from Connecticut, the late Pauline Sasaki. And I also studied craniosacral work with Hugh Milne and Jin Chindo with Iona Teagarden, and also TCM and acupuncture. So because I wanted to have something if clients come to me who really have problems. And then I found out I can also do it with Shiatsu. So nowadays I practice Shiatsu. That's my work. And that's the work that I love very much. And what I want to talk about in the following 45 to 60 minutes is not the view of a medical doctor, of an MD. It's, I want to talk about my experiences in working with clients in psychological crisis as a Shiatsu therapist. And I consider myself in first place as a Shiatsu therapist. Now, to start this whole thing, first of all, I would like to talk a little bit about some basics of my understanding of Shiatsu. First of all, concerning this topic of psychological crisis, Shiatsu is not psychotherapy. Although I always understood Shiatsu as a way to touch the psyche of a person through the body. From the very beginning, this was the only way it made sense, and to me. But it's no psychotherapy, and I am not a psychotherapist. And there's a big difference between psychotherapy and body work like Shiatsu, because psychotherapy deals with the words and emotions, thoughts, and the world of emotions, of words and thoughts is endless. You can get completely lost in there. It's really endless. And when clients come to us, usually in a crisis, they got lost in there, or they fear they get lost in there, and they have the feeling they need support. Whereas the body gives a solid foundation. The body is here and now. And when clients don't know what is happening, and then when they experience themselves in the body, it gives them security. And that's why it's a kind of anchor, in this turmoil of emotions and thoughts. And also, Shiatsu touches on a different level than psychotherapy, in the sense of that it's really a different part of the personality that is being addressed in our body work. I had a client a couple of years ago. She was a psychotherapist, an experienced and successful psychotherapist who had experienced traumatic stuff in her childhood. She had worked all through in many different psychotherapies. And when she came to me after the second or third treatment, she said, I have done a lot of therapy, and now I have to start all over again. This is something very different. And she came for about 2.5 years to my practice. So she really benefited from this. And we have to keep this in mind. We have a very unique approach, which is different to the approach of medicine and different to the approach of psychotherapy. And it has its own value and its own effects and its own tools to work with, of course. Okay. Now, when people follow us in our touch, when our thumb sinks in, our fingers sink in until we reach the bottom of the tsubu, when people follow us into this depth, then they experience themselves in their body, and they feel more secure. I will talk about this more a little bit later, I think. Yeah. So because of this, Shiatsu is a great tool to accompany clients who go through psychotherapy or trauma therapy, because it anchors them, it roots them. And so it's very good to combine the two. Yes, that's my experience. And then I want to talk about the three factors of Shiatsu, how Shiatsu works. And my view may be a little bit different from what you are experienced, or what you think, or what you thought so far. Because the first factor, the most important one, to my understanding, is not hard diagnosis, 2 meridians. It's the energetic field, or the field of resonance, a therapeutic field or space that client and practitioner create together. This is a very important aspect of our work, and it has been neglected many times. That means client and practitioner create a field of resonance, a space of resonance. And we as practitioners, we invite the client into this field. We offer it by our own being relaxed, being open, being aligned. So this training, this Qigong of being aligned, being open and relaxed, is essential for our work. Because when we are familiar with this and we offer this space to the client, then the client can easily adopt it, can easily unconsciously say, okay, this is interesting. I trust this space and I follow you. And then they open up, and then both of us create the space, the therapeutic space, as I call it. And this for me is the most important tool we have in Shiatsu. Of course, not only in Shiatsu, it's not Shiatsu specific. It happens everywhere where people meet. But we can use it consciously as a tool in our work. So this is a very important factor of our work. Another very important one is the one I started to talk about before. This is when we sink in and to the bottom of the tsubo. Then we touch the deeper surface of the body. There are 2 surfaces of the body, a superficial one, which is our skin, and a deeper one, which is at the bottom of the tsubo, so to speak. And when we go to the bottom of the tsubo, client follows us. The awareness of the client consciously or unconsciously follows us onto this level. And when they go to this level, which is also the entrance to their resonance and energetic space of their body, or the interior of their body, so it's the entrance, then they experience themselves within themselves. And this is so important in our work, because all these problems, also in a crisis, but also without crisis, stress, things we have to do, we must not forget, and the things that are wrong and that we really want to have, and all this stuff is still there when we are within our body or on our communicating level and deeper, but it's not so important. And when things are not so important, then it's easy to find solutions. Then it's easier to decide what is the right thing to do now. And what do I have to do? So we invite clients to this deep surface of their body and then into the interior of their body space. And this is healing itself. So this is the second important factor, how Shiatsu works. And the third one is that what you all know, working with the specific patterns, physical and energetic patterns of the client, of the body of the client, and beyond that, for example, following hard diagnosis or back diagnosis or pulse diagnosis or whatever you want to do. For example. So we work highly specific with what we find within the body of the client. And this means that we touch these patterns that are there to help the client to be secure in themselves. You know, when we as human beings, we constantly change. We are never the same, and this change is also a growth and a development. And at a certain point in life, for example, you may have the experience, now I understood life, now I know how things go. And now I set up everything so it's right. And now everything will be fine for the rest of my life. And latest after 10 years, most likely earlier, you will be in a big crisis and nothing works anymore because you have changed, and the walls that you have erected inside yourself and the doors that you have closed to make sure this is my direction, they don't work anymore. They become obstacles. Before, they gave you security, they gave you strength, and now they are obstacles. They prevent your development. Then you can become very sick. And but before you become sick, usually you go into a crisis. So so this is the effect of Shiatsu in general, with all three factors, how Shiatsu works. The general effect is that these walls within the clients become permeable. It becomes soft. The doors open, and different parts within the body of the client can communicate more freely. So clients feel safer, they feel at home in their body, and they notice they develop new ideas. This is a typical effect of Shiatsu to my experience. People start to have new ideas or think differently about things. So this is something very valuable. And for me, this is the main effect of Shiatsu. Shiatsu gives people a little more freedom to find new ways. And I will be talking about that more later, right? Now, one last thing of my understanding of Shiatsu is the focus. For me, in my work, each treatment has to have a focus. There are many different possibilities for a focus, but the focus is what I'm interested in a treatment. The focus is the place in the body where I can come back to and see what has changed, and also what is the next step that I want to do, because it doesn't make sense to know from the beginning how the treatment will be, because so many things happen in the treatment and then things change, and I have to adapt my approach to these changes. So a focus in all this is as an anchor for my treatment, for my attention. I consider this very important. If you should not be familiar with a focus in a Shiatsu treatment yet, which I doubt, but just in case, go to my website, wilfriedrappenecker.eu, and you find an article on the focus in Shiatsu. So this is also important for me. And then let's talk about crisis. Yeah. Let's talk about the nature of a crisis and how I see a crisis. You know, I talked about the development that we all go through. As children, as youngsters, everybody can see, but also grown-ups still develop, still grow until we die. And this never stops. It's a very, very strong force of development inside us. And this development does not go like this. No, it goes like this. And each step is a crisis, a little crisis or a bigger crisis. And when many of these steps come together, it can be a gigantic crisis. Yeah, it means that we go to a different level. We have to leave the old stuff behind, but we do not know yet what the new step will bring. So, and this is what a crisis is. We leave the old stuff behind and don't know what the future brings. Now, this is a very strong force in us. So everybody goes through crisis, which is absolutely normal. If we wouldn't go through crisis, we would be sick. It's necessary. We need it for our life. It's an integral part of life. Now, of course, when people are in a crisis, very often they blame inputs from outside for their crisis, which is true. Of course, we may have an accident, we may experience severe medical diagnosis, we may lose someone who is close to us, we may lose a job, or whatever it is. Yes, but this meets a fully developed personality, a personality that is in development, that is growing, that is going through crisis. So when these outside impulses meet our inside steps of development and crisis, then it can become really strong. Then it can become really strong, yes. So people who come to us in a crisis, they have a personality that was there already before this crisis, which is important to know. You know, the crisis meets on a person who is already fully developed with all strengths and weaknesses. And at the same time, we also can see and feel the influence of the impulse from outside, what happened from outside. And we watch both. We'll talk about this a little later. So when people come to us in a crisis, we do not take the crisis away from them. At least I don't know how to do that. And we don't have to do that. It's not necessary. But we support the client. We accompany the client a short path in the life. Support them in going through the crisis. And we do not solve anything for them. We do not heal anything. We do not take pain away or problems away. And the responsibility for their health stays 100% with the client. This is very important to know and to keep in mind, not to forget. Yeah. So we walk with the clients, yeah. We accompany them and we give them support as much as we can, but they have to do the steps themselves and they can do it. That's the good news. Now, when we work with a client, we also have to know that all the emotional issues, are also the crisis, shows and manifests in the body. We can see it. And of course, it needs some experience to see it, but the experience in our practice, from our Shiatsu practice, but also life experience. Any serious crisis that we went through ourselves is a great thing for our work with other people, because it helps us understand and feel with a client, see their situation, and also have ideas how things could go on. Yeah. So we see the long-term patterns, maybe a strong control or weakness in water, strong control in the middle burning space, or maybe very emotional or pain or traumatic experience in the past, or the long-term patterns. And then we also see the patterns of the actual crisis now. And we have to work with both, and that's what we do. Both are important, and we work with both. Now, this may sound as if this is a rather complicated thing, but it's not. It's not complicated, because the energetic patterns are always simple. They cannot be complicated. They're always simple. They may be complex, and they may be difficult to understand, but they are always simple. So we do not have to look for anything complicated, and we do not have to solve anything complicated. We just do our work, and then we see what happens. Okay, and important for our work is, as I mentioned already, seeing the client's situation and feeling it. It's not enough just to do hard diagnosis and then work with 2 meridians. It's a great approach, of course, but there's so much more. And so we need to take the information from all sources that we can get a hold of, you know, all the shins, from the talking, seeing, perceiving, feeling, touching, everything. Take it in, and especially important becomes the conversation with the client, the accompanying conversation before, you know, the interview before the treatment, before the first treatment, and then before other treatments, but also talking to the client during the treatment and after the treatment. This is very helpful to my understanding, to my experience. This becomes so important because when we talk to the client, we do not only hear what they say, but we also feel them. We also feel what they do not say. And this can be so interesting and so important. We see how they talk about this or that, how they talk about it, and what emotions are going with it. So we stay open and perceive the client. And so like this, we see and feel and understand a little bit of the client's situation. And this, for my shiatsu, is very important. I want to feel the client and I want to understand what's going on. How does this person manage their life? And everybody has a different way. And then, of course, we also need to know from the client what they expect from the treatment and the series of treatments. And this may change during a series, may change a lot, because they start to see themselves differently and see their situation and their crisis differently. And then we have to adapt to that. So continued communication is important. And also what the client experiences. You know, maybe the client just experienced, I'm so deeply relaxed, like I've never been before in my life. Okay, but then how is that, could that be related to the client's concern? Why they come for shiatsu? And how can this feeling, this experience be used to support the client finding a new way and new solutions? So also talking. And in this, when we do this, the last point, we may ask questions to stimulate the client's thinking about how the connection could be, how this could be related to their concern. Or we may even explain sometimes, offer a model to think about it. So this, for myself, is very important. Is a very important thing. Yeah. And the goal of all this, again, I repeat this because it's so important. The goal of all this is not to heal the client, is not to take anything away, but to support their competence in self-regulating and self-healing, so they do it themselves. And the self-regulating emotions, but also other aspects of life. This competence is so essential for our ability to live. And that's what we do. That's what we do. And before we start to work, there's another important aspect. Let me see. I want to add something. Let me see. Yeah. Oop. It's gone. No, sorry. Something doesn't work. I don't know why. Okay. Okay, but I don't, you can see it, but I don't see it. Too bad. That's bad, yeah. Anyway, I don't know what you see.
I see that it says,
Do you see a triangle?
yes, I see, yes, we can see the triangle.
Okay, so let's talk about the resources of a client.
Mm.
It's strange because I cannot see the triangle.
Oh,
Okay, let's talk about the resources of a client, which is also important.
right.
In my teaching, in my classes, I do not talk about resources. I talk about strength and beauty. I talk about looking for the strength and beauty of a client, because when we only see the problem, clients can come to us and they only see the problem, and they may be desperate and they don't know a way out. And if we follow them into their problem, we are trapped. So we have to stay outside and perceive the whole situation. Then we also see the strength of the client, the beauty. And these are the resources that the client has. And one of these resources, well, there are many, many resources. One very important is resilience. This is a term, I think nowadays also in shiatsu trainings, this is reflected, should be at least, is resilience. That means the way a person is able to deal with a difficult situation and go through a crisis, even a severe crisis. So resilience depends on so many different aspects of a personality, including a positive approach to life and a positive self-esteem, or the possibility to regulate one's own emotions, and accept oneself the way I am, and also to be able to do something, so become active, so I become better, and also social competence, like taking responsibility stuff. All this stuff is very important. So we can see and feel all this in the client. Where is their strength and where is their weakness, and which aspect they do they not use, and why not? Why is it they cannot use it? And this we can feel. So of course it needs experience for that, but we can feel it. And one aspect of resilience is the sense of coherence, and that's the diagram that I want to show you, which I think is important. It shows 3 factors that are important for people to go through a crisis. And the first factor is comprehensibility. That means, does the client understand what is happening and why this is happening? And if many people don't know, and if you don't know, you're helpless. But if you know what's happening, then you're not helpless anymore. So, and the second factor is manageability. That means, does the client have the feeling that he or she can go through the crisis, she can do it, she can manage it? And the third factor is meaningfulness. That means, does the client have an idea what positive things she can draw from the crisis, she can gain from the crisis, that it makes sense in her life. So it's a motivational aspect. And this is very important for me. And to help the client get in contact with this, I have 4 questions. I ask 4 questions. And the first question is, what kind of crisis are you in and why? And sometimes they don't know, and we find out together. And then I want to ask, tell me honestly, what is the worst thing about this crisis situation? What is worst? Let's not hide, let's not run away, let's talk about it. What is the worst thing? So these first 2 questions refer to the first point. Does the client understand what is happening? And then the third question is, what is your biggest support? What is your biggest support in this situation? This refers to the point, does the client have an idea how he or she can manage it? And then I have a question, and what is good about this crisis? And sometimes they know immediately an answer to every question, sometimes not. Sometimes we have to support them. So sometimes I'll give them homework, for the next time, in next week or in 2 weeks or in 3 weeks when you come back. Think about what is good about this crisis for you and your life. What could be good about this crisis, possibly. And they all come to an answer. They all find an answer. So this is my personal approach to this. It works very well. It works very well. Then, so when we're talking to the client in this way, we perceive the client. We have a chance to see the client and to feel the client, to experience the client, see what's going on. And this is very, very valuable, this moment. And to make it easier for me to understand what's going on, I use the model of the 3 burning spaces. The 3 burning spaces, yeah? And the one that in a crisis sometimes is most predominant is the middle burning space, control. Control of liver, gallbladder, sometimes high tension, a lot of stress, trying to hold the situation, to stay in the track, not to fall out. But also sometimes the emotions are very important, and they may be predominant, which we experience more in the upper burning space. Or clients can be like in a burnout, can be deeply exhausted in a crisis. And this is more referring to the lower burning space. Can the lower burning space offer a solid foundation for the solution of this crisis, or for all these things that are going on up here in the upper and the middle burning space? So, to give an example, let's stick to the burnout situation. A person comes to us in a burnout situation, then we check how much control is there. And usually when people who are in a burnout situation, they have a lot of tension and a lot of control. This control, this tension keeps them running, keeps them walking, going, working, although they're deeply exhausted, and never give up unless they have to, unless they cannot anymore. And then they feel defeated and they feel ashamed. So this tension is sometimes so strong. And the question is this what I should work with in first place? Is this the most important approach in the beginning of this treatment and this series of treatments? Or maybe behind this tension in wood usually are emotions. Emotions are the reason why we tense up in wood in 80–90%. Of course, there are other reasons too, like nutrition and stuff like this, but emotions are most important by far. And so what is the emotion situation? Like in the case of burnout, very often it's the feeling of, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to be loved. I'm not good enough to have the right to live. And then they do not want to stop, They have the feeling they have to go on, because if they stop, then everything breaks together. And and then there's a terrible situation. So, and of course, this feeling of not being good enough to have the right to live is connected to many other emotions and emotional experiences of the client throughout their life. So is this an approach that where we should start our series of treatments? And then the lower burning space, of course, quite often, people may think, well, burnout, very clear, we work with water, They are exhausted, of course, I work on bladder or kidney. But is this really number one? That's the question. So we take a look at the situation in lower burning space, how exhausted is it, how much are they disconnected from their strength? Because the strength is still there. It's still in their kidneys, definitely, unless they are deadly sick. But apart from this special situation, the strength is still there, but they may be disconnected. And then we have the feeling the lower burning space is empty. So shall we start our treatment from this aspect? Of course, higher diagnosis, back diagnosis can help us also, but we need not only higher or back diagnosis, we need all of our impressions that we get from the client, how we feel and sense the client situation. And that's what makes our work interesting. If I would only work with 2 meridians, it would be quite boring for me, to be honest. So I want to be in contact. I want to feel, I want to touch, I want to be in contact with the client. And then I talk to the client, not in the way a psychotherapist would talk. I talk absolutely normal, the way I think. Honest and normal. And talk about what comes up here, what shows up here. And remember, even if the client is desperate and everything seems to be so complicated, life is not complicated. We make it complicated. Our mind makes it complicated. Life is simple. Also, energetic patterns are simple. Physical patterns are simple. They're very basic. And we have to find out what is going on here on this simple level, not on the complicated level. So avoid to be drawn into the complicated things, the big knots that cannot be solved, Stay outside and look for the simple. And trust your heart, because your heart can tell you what is really going on and what is important right now. Yeah, I would like to take the thing away. Anyway, I don't know. And then we work. Can somebody tell me, Freigabe unterbrechen here? Okay, all right. I would take this out. And then we work. And to make it simple, here is a very nice and very effective approach to find a good focus in a treatment with a client in a crisis. And that is when we are in communication with them, we talk with them, and they talk about pain or fear or despair or depression, feeling of depression. And we ask them, where do you feel it in your body? Where do you feel it strongest in your body? The pain, the fear. And they know immediately. And they show you the spot. And the typical spots are, now I have to move away a little bit, maybe here. This is the typical spot where the heart is. But it may also be in the upper chest, maybe in the throat, maybe in between the shoulder blades, maybe in the solar plexus of the hara, maybe in all of the hara, maybe in the lower back, can be anywhere. But these are the ones that usually it's somewhere in the emotional experiencing of the upper burning space or the middle burning space. And then we can make this area the focus of our work and work with it. Focus means this is the center of our attention. Here is where we want to see how things change. And we can communicate with the client while things change. So the client can tell us also how things change, how they feel, how the situation inside them changes. And principally, we work in the same way, or everybody of you will work in the same way as you're used to work. We don't, I mean, we all work in a different way. We have different experiences, have different tools that we love most in our work, and we continue to do so. We work physically and with the energetic body as well. We perceive physical and energetic patterns. We touch these patterns with our hands, but also with our focused attention. And that's very important. I consider this maybe the most important tool in Shiatsu, the focused attention. Not a focused attention like this. It's a relaxed and open and warm attention, but focused and very clear. So this is a great tool for our work. And we watch the reaction of the client to our touch with hands and attention. We watch them, how they react. And then in our treatment, we continue accordingly because the reactions tell us what is the next step. And then the last important part of this general work is we communicate with the client about what they experience. So this is nothing new. It's what you all do already. And we can work with meridians or without meridians. Personally, I prefer an approach, a meridian-free approach. I do work with meridians. I use them as a tool in my shiatsu in almost every treatment. However, my view of the client, I prefer to be a meridian-free view of the client because then I see them more clearly. And I can work with organs, energetic organs also, if I don't touch any meridian. It's not so difficult. And if you want to work with meridians, fine. But one thing is important. Make sure you are free to go to any place in the body where the body calls you. You know the situation, huh? You go through a meridian here and suddenly there's this other spot calling and you say, no, I don't go there. I have my meridian. This is stupid. So if a part in the body calls you, go there and experience what is happening there and watch the changes in the client. Sometimes you see how these emotional issues become important and that a deep pain is coming up. You see and feel the pain of the client. And then those who can sense it, who can feel it, go there and touch it in a way that feels appropriate in this moment. And I cannot tell you how you should do it because you have to find out yourself in this moment what feels right now. And you can experiment. And you can also ask the client, which kind of touch feels right now here? And usually the things change pretty fast, but sometimes not. Sometimes there may be a treatment where you hold one spot for half an hour. As long as it is still changing and working, you feel the change, you feel how the system of the client works with this touch. You can stay there. It's fine. Of course, you have to redesign the treatment because if you stay there for half an hour, there's not so much time left for the rest, which is absolutely fine. Then you have a clear focus. And sometimes when people come back next week, or in most cases, things will have changed, but sometimes not. And maybe you do the same for a couple of treatments, just because this is what needs to be touched right now. And we do need this freedom. We do need this freedom. And then sometimes the body of the client starts to move. And then we support the movement. We do not tell the clients, don't move, but instead we encourage them. Yes, if you want to move, go, move. Because when Ki starts to move, the body also starts to move. Why not? Right. And this work can be so rewarding. when you touch the spot in the body that is so important. It's not necessarily an emotional spot, can also be the lower back if the person is really exhausted, depleted. It can be anywhere in the body where the client feels support is needed, warmth is needed. You know, everybody longs to feel safe, to feel warm, to feel loved, and to feel good. So when the client then feels our touch, the situation can melt. The inner walls I was talking about before, they open, they become permeable, and the doors open. Different parts in the body of the client communicate with each other more freely, and then things change. Then things start to change. And this is so rewarding and feels so good for both, for client as well as for the practitioner. Although sometimes it also may also be connected with tears, with emotional pain. It's also possible, and we have to be able to hold the space for the client and to encourage the client that this is a good situation right now, that this comes up, this emotional experience come up, this emotional release comes up. Yeah. And then afterwards, or maybe also during the treatment, we communicate with the client about what they experience. And this is also an important aspect of our work, because clients do not always see the connection, as I said before, between what they experience in the treatment and between why they come for Shiatsu. They don't understand how this could be related, and we should help them. We should help them, support them by asking questions, by giving hints, supporting them, finding out themselves how they can do it, and what the connection is. And sometimes we give them even homework. You know, as I said before, even homework to think about, to reflect, to ponder about some issue of their life. And then they come with answers and solutions, if they do their homework. Yeah, okay. This is an important part of our work, as I said before, and clients often do not see the connecting line. We have to translate the experience in Shiatsu into their everyday life. And this can be very, very supportive and very helpful. Okay, at the end of my little lecture, but one thing I want to talk about before I finish, and that is, what are the prerequisites for working with clients in a psychological crisis? You know, I said we're no psychotherapists, unless we have the additional qualification being a psychotherapist. So what do we need? And I said before, most important is our experience in the Shiatsu practice, and also our experience in life. And then we have to be able to hold an emotional situation and hold the space, the therapeutic space, in the moment of an emotional release. If we have never experienced that, then then I hope that you will experience it soon, because it's something very positive in 99% of all cases, or maybe 95. It's something very positive. So we have to feel confident in this situation, competent and confident, and safe ourselves in such a situation. And then we can give the client the feeling with words or with our attention that this is the right moment this happens. This means holding the space. This is what we have to be able to, and we have to know our limits. So when we have the feeling, this goes too far, this is too much for me, I cannot handle this, then we should refer the client to another practitioner or to another professional. But also if a client comes in a serious, with a serious psychological condition like a psychosis or a schizophrenia or deep depression, maybe even with suicidal tendencies, we have to be able to see this is something different. This is a different situation. And then we have to refer the client to other professionals. But we can tell them, I want to work with you. It's great to work with you, but only if you go to this other person or these other persons. And I will only continue with you when you do so, when you have connected with this other person. And then we can support them with our hands and our shiatsu. We can substantially support them in, even if they suffer from schizophrenia or deep depression, because shiatsu is a great support for people with such a serious disease. And we also have to know about the pitfalls of any therapeutic work, like transference and countertransference. Nowadays, this is taught in any good shiatsu training, I think, to reflect transference and countertransference taking place, because this is something that always takes place, and it can make our work really heavy and hard and difficult if we don't know what's happening. But if we know what's happening.
Excuse me, can you scroll down? I think there's more text that we could read in your document.
The problem is I do not see the thing. I do not see.
Maybe you need to change the view of your Zoom. It would be on upper right corner.
It shows many different things, but it does not show, and I don't know why. I have no idea. So I cannot scroll down. Just a second. Okay. Just a second. I try. Let me see. Let me see. I'll take this away.
I'm not familiar with a screen share, but maybe Dawn, you could help, or Kumiko.
Yeah, out of what reason ever, it's gone. And I don't know. Let's see what's. I'm sorry, I cannot show it. But you can have it afterwards. The whole thing. I'm sorry, it doesn't work.
Okay.
And I've almost finished.
Okay.
It was just 2 more sentences.
Sorry.
So we have to be sure shiatsu is no psychotherapy, and we don't want to be psychotherapists. This is important. And the responsibility stays with the client. We do not take responsibility for their life and for them to get better. We just support them. We just accompany them and help them to find solutions themselves. And if you like this work, it's great, it's fantastic. If you like this work, then do it. Don't hesitate to do it. You will enjoy and you will learn so much. You will learn so much for your shiatsu, for your life, and for yourself. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Wilfried. We love it. We love shiatsu, and your talk is so inspirational. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much. So interesting. And everyone, if you would like to ask questions and you don't feel like speaking, you can ask them in the chat and I will read them. Once again, thank you. Such an informative lecture. I'm so impressed.
Okay, questions.
Hello, my name is Leanne, and I have a comment. I studied in Japan to honor the origins of shiatsu and to learn a little about Japanese culture. And one thing was profound. I think in Japan, there is a great sense of respect for the other person, that I am here and you are there and we're together, but we are separate. And I think, Wilfried, what you're talking about has that sense of that respect, but that we're different. Thank you.
Yeah, respect for the client and for the dignity of the client too. Right, exactly. Yeah, questions?
Hello, I have something. Thank you, Wilfried, and thank you for all your nice presentation. Just a question on what you said before. You say something about verbal communication in terms of introduction when a new client come to your place, and then feedback afterwards. But you also say something of communication, of verbal communication, even within the treatment,
Yes.
if I well understood what you say. Because in terms of my personal, let's say, experience and what I've been learned, you know, so far we try to tend to reduce or to use the word during the treatment as less as possible in principle, but of course there are no rules, specific rules. Could you please give a little bit more, I would say, definition of importance of words during the treatment as well, please?
Okay, thank you for this question. Of course, it's an important one, and most of my treatments are silent too, but not always. And I have the freedom to start to talk, to ask questions, especially ask questions, because that is a good approach to stimulate the client's self feeling and self-regulating abilities. And so, for example, just a couple of days ago, I had a client, and suddenly she was becoming restless. She started to move, was becoming restless. And then I asked, what is happening right now to you? What is happening right now? And then she talked about what just in a few words, what was happening. And then we could follow this line. I asked her, please stay connected to it and report what's happening, for example. That's just one possibility. Or another client came to me, an elder lady, and she came for, I think she came for 3 years or so. And in the second year, it happened that suddenly while I was working on the arm, I had the feeling of something really bad happening. The feeling was that it happens now. And so I asked her, what is happening now? She said nothing. And then I asked, did you ever experience anything really terrible in your life? And then it all broke up. And she talked about how in Second World War in Hamburg, the firestorm, bombs on Hamburg. And she was right in the center of the firestorm. She lost her parents. And of course, this was a big issue in her life, but she hadn't thought about this for decades. But in my touch, I could feel it. Something's really bad. And it felt like it's happening now. So I asked, what's happening? Like this. It's something like this. So when I have the feeling my words could be a support, then I ask, or then I talk. And also I tell my clients, it's okay if you want to talk, you can talk. You don't have to be silent. But it's okay if you want to be silent. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There is a question from Julia. And it is, how can I learn to recognize patterns? How do they show?
To recognize what?
Patterns.
I still didn't understand.
Patterns. How can I
Yeah.
learn to recognize patterns?
Muster.
Pattern.
Do you have another word for it? Because somehow I don't get it here.
Wie erkenne ich Muster?
Patterns. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, that's a big thing. But Julia, you can already see so many patterns, certainly the physical ones, but also the energetic ones, because it shows in the expression of the person. It shows the expression of the shoulders, for example, the expression of the chest. And we are all used to use this kind of perception when we are together with someone whom we like or whom we are close to. You know, when a loved one feels sick or sad or angry, we can feel it. And we also, when we open our eyes, our inner eyes especially, we can also see where it is in the body. But of course, you can also learn it in your shiatsu practice if you're interested. You have to be interested. And you can learn it in workshops, of course. There are many postgraduate workshops related to that, to see the energetic patterns. And we do a lot of this in our training in Hamburg and in Switzerland. So, but it's not about any extra ability, you know, unusual ability. It's a very normal very human faculty to be able to see those patterns. And we all use it in our everyday life, but most of the time we're not aware, not conscious, not aware of it. So it's not about trying hard to see something. It's more about becoming aware of what do I feel already. You know, it doesn't make sense to try to see something energetic that I don't see. It doesn't work. It simply doesn't work. You can forget. But become aware of what do I feel? What does it feel like to me? And these information, these patterns we get through feelings. Sometimes they come so strong, so it's even, we have the feeling that we know, but it's principally, it's a feeling. The energetic perception goes via resonance. So we have to be relaxed. We have to feel good, not make things complicated, and be open, aligned, and then our resonance space does the rest of the work. But of course, it needs experience. When I studied shiatsu, I couldn't see or feel anything. And in the workshops, in the classes, in the trainings, and postgraduate workshops, everybody seemed to be able to see everything, and I was the only one who couldn't see anything. And then one day in a workshop with Paul and Sasaki, suddenly I realized what I see. I just had my receiver on the wrong, how do you call that in English? Wellenlänge. I just was looking in the different, not in the right part of my own being. I was watching something that was not important. And the other thing was also there. It's there. So I just have to find it within myself. So much about seeing patterns, but it's a fascinating aspect of our work. And if you're interested, you will make fast progress, I'm pretty sure.
I have a question. Do you have any suggestions how to prepare yourself for a visit for therapy before seeing a client?
Before seeing a client, well, in the first years, I was always doing makohos before I saw clients. And this, of course, is a good thing because I am a person who was much more in the past, but even nowadays, very much under control and very, very tight, very tense. And I needed to do my exercises before treatment. However, Well, you have to find out yourself what works for you. Because nowadays I do it differently. I'm just go into the room, put the hand on the client, and then it starts. Because I use the touch, I touch the client, and in this moment when I touch, in the moment when I touch, it goes through my body opens. But this is just the effect of 40 years of Shiatsu, you know. So this is how I do it nowadays. So anything in between, find out what is good for you. And if you are more in the beginning years of Shiatsu, I suggest to do exercises. For most people, exercises like yoga or makahos are better than meditating, unless you're very experienced in meditating. Because physical exercise bring us back into our own space, and then we become calmer. Then we can slow down. Then we can relax. And then we can feel the floor underneath us. And when we feel the floor, we can align. And then the work is easy. So this is what I can tell you. Find out what works for you. What worked for you so far?
Oh, I'm not a practitioner. I'm just curious.
Oh, I thought you were a practitioner. Okay.
No, I'm social media, but I'm curious also because I was wondering if serious illness, like I have epilepsy, if that makes me that I should not touch people as a therapist, or I could.
Sorry, what? Yeah, what kind of people? I didn't. I missed that part.
Like I have epilepsy.
Epilepsy. Oh, you
Yes.
can work with people who suffer from epilepsy.
But I have one. Can I touch people? Can I do a treatment?
Oh, of course you can do a treatment or receive a treatment, do a treatment. Shiatsu can be very helpful, and Shiatsu usually does not cause an epileptic fit. This doesn't.
Oh, no.
This will not happen. No.
The opposite. The opposite.
Of course, it can happen, but then not as an effect of Shiatsu.
Okay.
Of course, it can happen depending on what is the cause for the epileptic fits, and it depends. But Shiatsu can definitely be very helpful. Very helpful. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's a trauma based in my case, but I'm getting to the roots. So I think that touch might be healing for me. That also, when I'm receiving, that helps me a lot. So that I was wondering if I can.
Yeah, and there's no danger. There's no danger. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, Wilfried. I also have a question. You said, hello. You said we don't talk to people like psychotherapists do. We talk to them like we would normally talk to them. Can you, maybe there's like one or two big differences that you can elaborate on a little bit, like what is the difference when we as Shiatsu practitioners talk to a person, a client, and how would you define that?
There's not necessarily a difference. The thing is, a psychotherapist usually follows a certain understanding of or method of psychotherapy, and then the way they proceed will follow this method, will follow the line that this method offers. And we don't have this. But principally, there's not a big difference, because also psychotherapists, well, not with every method or every kind of psychotherapy, but most psychotherapies have to follow their feeling, have to follow their heart too, and have to follow what they sense in the client. And so principally we do the same thing, but we do not have a theoretical background for that. That's the only difference. but we also follow our heart, and a good psychotherapist also follows his or her heart, definitely.
Okay, danke. Thank you.
Schön, dich zu sehen.
Ja, schön dich zu sehen.
Yeah.
Hi, Wilfried. That was such a great talk, and I really really resonates with what you have shared today. So thank you very much. And we also have your contact details we want to post on the slide now. And I don't know if people want to see your website address and email address, then we can share that.
Oh, that's okay. I'll post it.
Okay, thank you.
From my
I will also, Kumiko, I will send you the PowerPoint presentation, which out of what reason ever didn't work here.
Oh,
So if you
wonderful.
want to forward it, feel free to follow it. I will send it to you. I don't know when. Well, maybe right now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And
So
also you'll
Wilfried-
find my website. The address or the name of my website in this PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, sorry. Okay.
Thank you.
And I thank you very much for watching, for your interest.
Yes,
And,
we can see your beautiful pattern. When you talk about your experience with shiatsu, your eye shines, your cheekbone gets red. It's we feel your passion of shiatsu. Thank you for teaching and sharing for so many years, over 40 years. That's such a precious. And we feel it. We feel your belief in shiatsu. We feel your trust with your clients, your friends, your students. And thank you so much. This was such a gift to all of us. So we can carry the mission to share shiatsu with our students. Thank you, Wilfried.
thank you very
Such
much.
an honor. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I feel that your dedication to shiatsu cannot be measured over measured because you were a medical doctor. Have you met anyone that would change being from medical doctor to shiatsu practitioner?
Was that a question or?
Yes. Have you came across anyone that I was wondering?
But well, I didn't fully understand.
Okay. Did you meet other than you medical doctor?
Did I meet other medical doctors who do shiatsu?
Yes.
A few, yes, a few, but not many. A handful, yeah, a handful, yeah.
Great.
But
Because
and there are quite a few doctors who think that what we're doing is a good job, is good work.
Yes.
But
Yes.
of course, the majority thinks shiatsu is something esoteric, some esoteric quark, because they don't know. They have no idea. They don't know what we're doing, and they don't know the strength and the richness of our work,
Yes. Yes.
which is unique, which is really unique and something very precious. And so for the future, I hope that many more doctors and other medical professionals experience shiatsu and understand what shiatsu has to offer, and that it can really support their work. But this is well, it happens already nowadays, of course, here and there.
Yes.
But it's not the general situation right now. Hopefully, in the future.
Yes.
yes. So thank you for the fact that you have written 7 books, right? And
Well, not really,
seminars.
but I'm responsible for about 7 books. Yes.
Yeah.
And
I didn't
articles.
write them all myself. Yeah.
So there is a question. So which book you would recommend the most? Question from Veronique.
it totally depends on where you are and what you're interested in. Yusen, well, this doesn't exist in English. Yusen, but it exists in French and in Italian and Polish, by the way, too. Yusen is a book for beginners. And the 5 Elements and 12 Meridians is a book for people who are in Shiatsu already, who want to understand more, or body workers who want to understand about 5 Elements. And the Atlas Shiatsu is a book for people who really study Shiatsu, who really learn it, who want to know about precise meridian flows. It depends. And then there's a book on practical Shiatsu, but it only exists in German. There's cases of a therapeutic Shiatsu practice, which is also very interesting for the German speaking. And then there are the 3 readers of the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th European Shiatsu Congress in Kiental, which you can obtain in Kiental, order in Kiental, and with interesting contributions, for example. So it totally depends on what you're looking for. So there's no recommendation of one book for everybody. Yes, buy all books, great, yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, we have some music that I don't know if you all want to hear, but if you stop the screen share, then we can share the music now, if anybody wants to hear it. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, so thank you very much.
And before we finish, I would like to read some comments of gratitude. And Julia says, thank you very much. Katerina says, thank you, amazing. Dawn says, thank you, Wilfried, for your wonderful work. Totally resonate with what you have shared. What else do we have here? Mark Dot says, thank you so much. Generous wisdom, reminding us perception goes by resonance.
Mm-hmm.
Sylvia says, thank you so much for sharing your experience. Okay. And Dara says, it was wonderful presentation. The majority thinks it is esoteric. This has been the case since I started doing Shiatsu in 1976. It is not widely accepted because of concepts of touching us still taboo.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to add from myself that I believe that the world crisis which are awakening people wake up, that people wake up on all levels. So all therapies will be welcomed and analyzed once more and through more perspectives. So let's celebrate Shiatsu. Let's talk about Shiatsu and keep advocating Shiatsu, because yes, it is logical, as you always prove, Wilfried. So thank you again. And Shani says, this approach will help my practice so much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you. Hope to see you with us in future for more lectures. It was so interesting. And everyone, lecture will be available on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe, like, comment. We have almost 200 lectures already. So every subscription, every comment, every like brings more exposure to our channel and brings more exposure to Shiatsu itself. So please support Shiatsu community. Thank you so much. And see you next Saturday.
Yes, thank you everybody for joining today. Have a great week and see you soon. Thank you, Wilfried. Such a great honor to have you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And goodbye, everybody. Have a good day or good evening
Yes.
or good night,
Yes.
wherever you are.
Yes. We are all connected.
Well, Wilfried, can you please stop share your document? Okay, thank you.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
Hey guys, who chose the music? Don, it was you?
Thanks,
Erika, Don?
Don, for your help.
Thank you. East Forest Grounded official video. Okay.
Have a great weekend.